Thank you, Sachin, and thank you, Garja Marathi, for allowing me to share what we have. I would like to actually give a very quick presentation, share a few of our slides, and let me just get into right away. So, Viridis came actually, we started in 2014. Our goal is to provide all the information that the scientists need to make smart decisions that allow them to develop sustainable and less toxic products. We already have some recognitions from United Nations Environmental Program and global organization called Launch for being the innovative company. So what are we currently addressing? And actually this goes very closely with the industry challenges that Sachin just mentioned. Costly early stage R&D efforts. The drug discovery companies have to study the molecule in order to find what are the potential risks that it has, and there is quite a bit of R&D that happens that might get wasted if you actually can be saved if you know a little bit early on some of the background of the molecule. Risky late stage changes. Until recently, looking at the toxicity of the chemicals.
Neelam, are you present? Are you sharing a presentation?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you see me now on my screen now?
We are not able to see your screen.
Somebody has to allow me to participate.
Yes, I will do that. Anand, can you make her the
presenter? Can you make me the presenter?
Because yeah, we are trying to do that. Anand, can you, because we are co-host, but Anand, can you make her the co-host along with us? Anand?
Actually, it should be Sachin, I think.
Okay. We are all co-host here. The only thing is that we may not have the permission to, I'm just trying to make you a co-host.
Can I mute her?
Anita, I will check with Anand.
I'm also trying, we're trying to make you a co-host so you can present.
Sure.
Otherwise, Neelam.
Yeah, so here's what I would suggest, Anita.
While it happens, maybe Bhushan, we can shift to Bhushan in the meantime while we get.
I think,
thank you,
I
Neelam.
think she's a co-host now. She can try.
Yes.
Yeah. We can see.
So as I was saying that, let me just, the current challenges, as Sandeep, Sachin had just mentioned that there are a number of industry challenges in terms of the data, the accuracy of the data, as well as understanding of the data by the right people. So what we are trying to solve is, during the very early R&D efforts, when the drug discovery happens or within the agrochemical, people are looking at the molecules, if they can understand the potential problems that the chemical has, or the molecule has, they can actually explore some of the analogs or metabolites that it may have that might be a better option when they are doing the product development within any industry. Understanding of the toxicity of the raw materials that the scientists are choosing, and just subconsciously choosing a better chemical and having the options available of what else they can choose can help them develop the processes that are sustainable right from the beginning, so that the late stage changes won't happen as often. Regulatory compliance. If you know the regulatory risks that the chemicals have, you can prepare yourself a lot better and avoid the potential problems in the later stage. And then availability of the toxicity data is very critical. Most of the MSDS currently offer very little bit of information on the toxicity. And what we do is provide really 48 different properties per chemical that covers very comprehensive all the information.
So Neelam, I want to jump in and maybe ask you some specific questions. So that way, I think the audience will also get to know a bit more in terms of the use cases that you came across. Okay. I know you are working with a couple of large pharma companies where they really started discovering the process and they found a particular challenge and they reached out to you. So can you kind of briefly talk about how you're solving that particular challenge where the drug has already been identified, but in the process of evaluating its related, should it be continued or not?
For example, one of the large pharma companies, what they told us they would use the product for is during the target identification. When they're looking at, the 50,000 molecules, or actually even trying to reduce the number, the pipeline, going from 40,000 to 4,000 to 400 and so forth. At some point, they want to know the molecule information a lot more so that they can do the elimination process much faster and better. So we are able to provide that molecule information and also identify the analog that are less toxic, so that if they are interested, they can study that further.
Got it.
So our platform is really to provide the early warnings and potential problems so that scientists can make better decisions. This is not a product platform that provide, you can take that data to the FDA or for the regulatory purposes.
Thank you, Anita. So Anita, probably we are getting closer. So I want to bring Bhushan in the mix, where I know he's driving a lot of technology innovation and leading an organization where there are specific challenges, Bhushan, we're trying to solve in the UK. Can you talk about your experience in terms of building the technology infrastructure and what challenges you faced?
Yeah, I think thanks for this. It's a good question, and it's a really a debatable question as well. I mean, it has quite an open question, and you kind of rightly pointed on your last slide in the challenges. There are a need of some infrastructure needed before we can even jump into the AI, ML, machine learning cases into the organization. And one of the things is right databases, right infrastructure to down to the lab level, including ELNs, and all sort of data lakes that you need to have it. And if the organization is big, generally, most of the bigger pharma, let's say top 20, top 30, 40 pharmas have that kind of level of database organization and data informatics organizations available. But those who are the starting ones, they do not have this kind of information. So they might have to kind of subscribe to these databases, from the commercial external parties, third parties organizations, where they can provide the service as a service or can provide the data. But really the challenge we are facing today in AI/ML world is not about the not having the capacity to predict rightly, but to have a right data selected at a right level. And I think it is going to be one of the kind of all party effort to put that right data sets into a right models into to predict that kind of a knowledge. And this is where also you mentioned no model is right. Every model is wrong. It's an assumption. But then there are certain models which predict better and they are good in predicting.
Give the direction, right? That's
yeah,
what they
give
just
the direction
simply...
exactly. So we are not going to say replace everything by AML. But what we are going to do is accelerate that 14-year, 15-year or 20-year of drug discovery period into 10-year, 8 years, down the line. And one of the beautiful example this year we saw it is the COVID vaccine delivery. I mean, how long it took us to develop vaccine previously before this pandemic is you compare that versus how long it took it from there till the identification
Absolutely.
to the actual vaccine is like an accelerated vaccine. And that is what is providing in each stage of AI/ML machine learning, that in a micro state or a macro state, the models are doing their job to accelerate that point of, delays, years of delays into months or days into it.
And I think with that, tremendous amount of collaboration that happened across the world because
exactly, that is going to be the norm. That's the thing we need to live. I mean, that is the right way to achieve the drug discovery. So I think this is where the organization will change from now on. This is where organization will cash on to see. There are a lot of model zoos, by the way, for those people on the call who are really interested in AI/ML in pharma world. You don't have to do everything now. You have a model zoos available online. You just go and grab a model, identify all the chemical structures from a publication. There is a model available. Somebody else done it, open space, put it in. You just use the model to do that. And I think that is the beauty of these AI/ML machine learning there. But obviously there are still challenges. I mean, how good the model will be on certain data types, if the images are in 1940s, hand-drawn pictures on the publications, whether you'll be able to detect versus
absolutely. And there are scientists who had noted on the paper, and people are really trying to use that information with imaging solutions. How can we capture the data? What happened? Absolutely. So I think there are so many challenges, and I think we are running out of time, Anita. This is a broad topic, right? We all acknowledge that it's a huge topic, and it's at the same time in a very interesting world we are living in at this point. And I think
I will open the forum for any questions.
Sure.
I think that will make it happen. Neelam, you had something to say.
Yeah, just before we go into that, I wanted to just announce that we actually have some of the adverse outcome pathways, access to them. And what we would like to explore is how we can use deep learning to expand that information to other organ-related toxicity. So if anybody wants to collaborate and talk to us, we'd love to talk to you.
Oh, great, Neelam. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. And there are experts in here on the panel as well as in the audience. So.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So anybody wants to ask the question, we'll open it up. We have Dr. Monali Manohar from Stanford. She is on the Sean Parker Institute of Allergy and Immunology. So thank you, Monali, for joining today.
Sure, thank you.
And Monali, if any comments or any pointers from you would be absolutely appreciated as well.
Yeah. This was a very interesting forum, and I know the focus has been chemistry or chemical molecules. Since my background is in immunology, you did touch a little bit on antibodies, although I was wondering if each speaker can share something about the immunotherapy products which are in various different pipelines from different companies and how AI/ML plays a role in that, because I understand that immune system and the microenvironment in which a target can play its role or not is even more complex than a chemical molecule. So would be nice to learn from the speakers.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree anymore. In fact, if I were to give you some statistics, the next 50% of the drugs in the pipeline are all immuno-based.
Yeah.
Right. And that is an extremely interesting area across the world. So I'm sorry, I had to skip a little bit of the antibody design prediction pieces, but we are very happy, Monali, in case you're interested in knowing more about it, in building some of those algorithms. Very happy to work and collaborate as well.
So Sachin, to carry that question quickly, how do you see the difference between helping a chemical drug versus a biotherapeutic?
Biologics. Yeah.
Biologics, biotherapeutics, what we'll call. For example, it's completely different for CAR-T or immunotherapy of all. It's very different. IO, especially checkpoint therapies, and chemical entities that are coming.
Small molecules, right?
Yes.
Right. So I think what we've seen, Anita, is people in the industry are very open to looking at both sides to solve a problem, depending on if it's the right target for it. But so from the discovery standpoint, people are open to look at both, right? But when it comes to the developability, the processes are completely different. So when it comes to the development of those processes, the small molecule processes go through a different cycle versus the biologics. Now, biologics are really, and that's another area where you'll see tremendous amount of traditional pharmas moving into biologics, and that's the future as everybody is kind of going after that. But the complexity involved in terms of producing the right antibodies with volume, and that's one of the challenge we're really solving. This is an industry level challenge where can we produce large amount of antibodies with right purity without any additional risk within a reasonable cost. And it's a huge challenge, and that a lot of industry folks are working, including us. So we'll be very happy to share, Anita, maybe a few months down the line. And we have some
at this point,
really
I
good,
think some of the two efforts I see in offering, especially as Monali said. I'm speaking. If anybody else wants to speak, please raise your hands. I'm just trying to move the conversation. So definitely we would like to see the prediction in efficacy also, because that's another thing where AI can play such a big role that we are there are so many streams going parallel. One is the toxicity, and the other one is actually the protein folding and efficacy. COVID vaccine was one of the very good example where all these things came together to predict something, and that actually worked. So that is a great step in this process. Second thing I would like to know, just it might be a little bit divert. Again, if anybody else wants to ask question, please post it in the chat so we can give you an answer. Something that I want to leave this forum with. We have seen it's not sudden that the COVID virus SARS-CoV-2 came in. There was a lot of history of these viruses before. We didn't pay attention, unfortunately, through endemics and some of those things. But now I think people have learned their lesson. So AI is the only way to actually predict what is coming new from
correct.
What we know. What is it that is going to, what is the next possible pandemic that's possible, and also are we ready to tackle it? Like this vaccine came in a year's time, it was great, but can we predict what's going to come? And can we also have kind of vaccine where we can have cassettes, or we can have a pan vaccine to a lot of possible viruses in futuristic way, and also from that? So that is something people are looking at, and that is where AI is going to be the main source. There is a question from Priyanka. Priyanka, you can, there is a question from Priyanka. To be a data scientist in pharma AI, do you have to have a bio background?
So
coming
it's a very interesting question. To be honest with you, what I found is people from all aspects of life with passion to learn and invest time and understanding the biology and chemistry. That's all you need. If you have a physics background, if you have a math background, absolutely. I think you are ready to learn and you understand these aspects well. So it's all about your individual investment of time to learn, and particularly if you have a science background.
First,
any of the backgrounds
and then Neelam. I will unmute. I think Anand, can you unmute everyone or unmute Neelam, because we are not able
Yeah,
to.
I just did. Actually,
Okay.
I am a proof of that. I am a software engineer and I have a self-taught toxicity expert now. Actually, I wanted to comment a little bit on about from what Anita said. I think some of the ML research and the use of the ML is driven by what is being accepted by the industry. So right now, the regulatory bodies are accepting the chemical level use of the ML, and they are more ready to take those results. While on the other side, FDA is really taking a little bit more cautious role, obviously. And there is a lot of proof that can happen, but definitely ML would help the research process, fast tracking that, going to certain conclusion level, and then going further on the clinical side then. And
you had a comment. Thank you, Neelam. Thank you so much. That is so inspiring. Then you had.
Hi. Hey, so I'm an academic scientist, so I just want to give a slightly different perspective on it. And it was a very nice question that Priyanka brought up about what kind of training you need. We see this a lot now, especially in the last about 3 years, that students are actually very aware. I teach at PhD level. I'm not very familiar with the undergraduate situation, where, you know, I do have some insight into it through our summer program, but students are actually very aware that they need bioinformatics and data science background to actually do better in their research in biology. So these students are actually studying whatever biological endpoint. They might be immunologists, they might be toxicologists, and I teach toxicology. I'm a trained toxicologist too. And we all are now almost required to know some basics of data science. And you know, we may not be as well versed as Sachin and others who are at the forefront of this, but there is definitely a new understanding in student population that they need certain amount of training, or at least understanding how to bring bioinformatics into their own research.
That's a perfect segue for our next question from Swapnil Godge. He's asking that you can combine that, Udayan, listen to this question and you can combine your things to that. Most of us are going to be end users for the various AI ML based tools and platforms. Right. How do we best equip ourselves in terms of training to make the best use of AI ML? So both Sachin and you can answer. I'll finish the question. Do we go for programming language or for broad data science management, etc.? So it is the next right question to be asked.
Right.
Like,
so
what is it that you want to learn? First Udayan, then Sachin.
So what I would suggest for that is define your requirement and then seek out what you want to learn. Of course, you don't want to turn yourself into a full-fledged data scientist in that case. And what I'm doing right now, I'll tell you, and this might sound funny, at the age of 46, I'm going back to school to learn R programming. It is absolutely required for my work. If I have to stay funded and ahead the curve, I have to learn R programming. It's just how it is. I've invested a lot of money into buying my own lab server, and with my students, we are actually developing an AI platform for our work. And so we are just doing that. I'm not interested in anything else. So we are putting a concerted effort into that. There is a lot of resources out there. We are doing my students took courses at our university. I work at University of Kansas Medical Center, but there are Coursera courses. There are a lot of YouTube videos. So self-teaching is possible. And then you can actually join, 1 week, 2 week crash courses given by Broad Institute, called Spring Harbor Laboratory. There are lots of these. So I would start there. And if you find that actually, you like it, you can get more into it. The other thing that's happening, I would like to mention, and I'm involved in one such effort right now, is at the university level, we are actually developing a training program. So our PhD program is partly funded by National Institutes of Health. We have what's called as a T32 funding. And we are trying to actually develop another T32 funding. The focus of that is to train biologists with bioinformatics and data science. So this PhD program, everybody is going to be actually doing PhD in some subspecialty of biology. It may be pharmacology, toxicology, immunology, whatever. But they will actually take 2 solid courses in bioinformatics, data science, and AI. And so they will actually be biologists with this understanding. And the reason we actually initiated this effort is because we work with a lot of data scientists, right, at university level. And that has become a major bottleneck for us from 2 reasons. One, these people are valuable and very difficult to find, especially if you're in Midwest and everybody wants to work for big shots on the coasts. That's one thing, their time is very hard. But secondly, more importantly, we find that pure data scientists may sometimes may not really have the real biological understanding that we expected them to have. And then there is a sort of lost in translation aspect of it. And so we're trying to avoid that with this program.
Sachin, any comment from you?
No, I think, I think only thing I would caution and comment a little bit as well. See, just purely looking at an AI skill by itself in this field is absolutely not enough. And people have experienced this over and over and over again. And that's part of the hype that we observed maybe last 2-3 years in some of the large CEOs were extremely optimistic and making a dent very quickly. And they realize that it's not about the technology, but the true and deep understanding of biology and chemistry was extremely essential in this process. So
we have Ajay Wagh who has raised hand. Ajay, please unmute yourself and.
Ajay Wagh leads a chapter in Germany. Ajay, take over. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Hi,
Ajay.
Hi. Great talks. I mean, it's really helpful. I just quickly introduce myself. My background is from biomedical instrumentation. So I did my diploma, bachelor's, and the master's as well. And currently now I'm pursuing PhD in tissue engineering. So for me, as the other participant raised the questions, if they already have the computer science background, and what should they know about the biology, to understand the algorithms and the other things. For me, as from the engineering background or the biologist, now I am learning the biology or the molecular biology, the chemistries as well. So my question to Mr. Udan Apte and as well Sachin sir, that as he requested that how he trained the PhD students, right? So my question is, if we have the mentees just like me who are in PhD right now, or maybe after finishing their PhDs, what 3 or 4 points they should keep in mind while at the learning and after finishing their PhD, they should focus on? So as you said, Udayan sir, that you should define your requirement, right? And according to that, you should have shortlisted the courses in which direction you wanted to go. But from my perspective, the AI or the ML is huge, right? It's completely a huge platform. And for you, for that reason, you should first think, okay, for example, if I'm deciding the requirement in which direction I wanted to go, what will be the 3 or 4 important points that you should always test yourself to achieve that target?
Sachin, you want to get that first and then I'll comment.
Yeah, sure. Then.
Sorry, it was a long question.
No. I think it's a very common question. So absolutely understand that. I think the current topic we focus is more around the biology and chemistry side of the house from the biopharma industry. But depending on your interest, which is, let's say, tissue engineering, and there are direct applications in terms of some of the therapeutic areas. So right, Anita, in that sense, you really have to narrow down a little bit further in terms of what specific things you are observing. And we have enough mentors we're going to gather in this particular forum, where we will find somebody who is working in that space. I can assure you, with Anandji's help and Anita and Sandeep and others who are really global connections across the board, we want to make sure folks like you get the right level of mentorships. So that absolutely we can assure you, and we can guide you through certain tools and focus areas as well. But it's a little bit short answer from that aspect, right? But I think you need to have a little bit more one-on-one conversation, would be my suggestion.
Yeah, we can organize
exactly.
that.
Yeah,
we can organize that.
Thank you.
So I just want to comment that, again, just going back to the basic idea that I put out is that, define your requirement. As you said, AI, ML, data science, these are huge topics, and people are working from everything from, large healthcare data sets to, designing drugs, and QSR is something big deal in our field,
Yes.
psychology, right? Structure activity relationships. So, what I would say is, start with very small problems, define problem. Just like you do in our research, we define one hypothesis at a time. We design the experiment for that hypothesis and we test it. We're not, you're not going to do all your PhD experiment in one go. It's going to be one experiment after another, right? So
Right.
I would just say the same thing with this. Okay, I want to learn. I want to bring AI to this. I want to solve this particular problem, A, B, or C, with AI as a tool. Remember, AI is not the endpoint. It's a tool to reach an endpoint, right?
Right.
And so you define your problem and then say, okay, this AI tool will be useful to define this problem. And as Sachin and Anandji said, we can, collectively provide input into, okay, what is your problem? Okay, this is what you're asking. We can provide input about, okay, this is what you would like to learn first. And these are baby steps. You'll have to, kind of put one ahead of the next one.
Ajay, you connect with Sachin and Udayan at this. I'll take another.
Sure. Definitely. Thank you.
Anita, we have to watch for the time also.
Last one we'll take here. This is a question from Joshi Kaka. AI ML is certainly valuable. Want to add, is it really mandatory or useful in drug discovery programs? It is like, if you want to find a spouse to marry, do you need to know all the candidates in the entire world? I think this seminar is focusing on application of basically pre-IND time. People, so can you unmute, and if anything that you want, I can comment on this a little bit. Just a fun fact. Last year was a washout. We had Peter Brodin, who just gave a talk on 8th of April on human vaccine project. Peter Brodin from Carolina. So he is a big name, and he was fighting with Nima Agaipur, who is a Stanford bioinformatics person, again a very renowned guy there. Monali will know him very well. So they were fighting. Nima was saying, he had this thing, is that you guys biologists cannot learn all this. There is no way you can be an expert, and you have to collaborate. But what he was telling, this is pertaining to your question, is that what you need to learn, what biologists need to learn, is what language to speak with the bioinformatics person and AI person. What is it that you want? You need to be able to explain that person clearly. That's all you need to know. And he actually takes courses for that. So he was so frustrated, even with the Stanford researchers, that guys, ask right question. You're not asking right question. Stanford is all CAR Ts to molecules, to everybody is there. and they are not able to write ask. So that's one part. Whereas Peter Brodin was saying in same platform, both of them were fighting that no, biologists need to go just asking questions, but they need to be able to put in efforts themselves to actually understand what this bioinformatics guy is giving you. Because most of the time, this is something that is a practical problem.
Absolutely.
Which is not discussed here, is the quality of data. Because something in silico is fine, but at the end, the data which is done in the lab is what is going to get you beyond IND. So it's not going to be that. So point is that data quality is something that is very, very, very important from your point of view. So my question to both you, Sachin and Neelam, is going to be, but we'll answer the question from here if it is needed. That is it mandatory? I think I answered that, saying that
you did extremely well, Anita.
Yeah.
You did extremely well, and I think your point is so valid that without a biologist understanding or have the right interfacing language, they themselves not going to appreciate what is needed in their daily work.
Correct.
Right, and that appreciation is going to what drive the data quality. I think without that appreciation, all this AI work is going to fail.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Can you take my earlier question first?
We are running out of time.
I would like to actually.
I want to, sorry, Neelam, just a minute. I want to invite Dr. Dilip Hegde and his wife. Both of them are doctor from Shanghai. So Deepak, sorry. I need your comments. Deepak is he himself is a scientist, and your wife's name is Darshana, I suppose. Sorry.
Yes, Anandji.
Yeah.
So my wife's name is Darshana.
Yeah.
Both of us are industrial pharmacists, but my wife is more focused on academics, and I have been involved more from the industrial point of view, both from discovery all the way to development and commercialization of drugs.
Oh, great, people. You're good to have you.
Because they will be great help to us in propagating our mission in China, Shanghai. They are very good contact base there. Sorry, I called him interrupting Neelam because in China it is pretty late now, and maybe he wants to get off the meeting. That's why I called him first.
I'll get Hemant Joshi on the line. Hemant, मी तुमचं सॉरी ते वर्षा जोशी असल्यामुळे आम्हाला कळत नव्हतं.
Oh, Hemant Joshi, Varsha Joshi असं काय? Hemant Joshi.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually,
he himself is an entrepreneur. He himself is an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So त्यांचा क्वेश्चन होता की big companies have less success in coming up with good drug molecules, whereas small companies do much better job. So what is your take on it? So Sachin, I think I will say that is because they are backed by Sachin.
No, I think I know there's a in spirit of saving time, I'll say just 2 sentences. The first step for a lot of large companies, unlearning what they did in the past, right? For the new ones, it's learning. That's all. Like the unlearning takes so much time. The changing their old habits, it takes so much time. That's it.
Hemant, तुम्हाला काही comment?
Okay, actually, I want to add something because I worked in the program for many years, almost 10 years. So the main problem is big companies, they want to go for very potent compounds. And as you know, we are toxicologists. Most compounds, they fail because of toxicity. So I think the paradigm has to be changed. We don't have to have a perfect molecule. We need to go for maybe even 10 milligrams per daily dose or 100 milligrams. Yes, okay. You don't have to go for 0.1 milligram daily dose. So I think that could be one of the biggest challenge. And also you commented on data. I was in the industry when they were going for high throughput screening. So the data used to be so bad. So it was very, to me, it was a failure. So data is important. What you said is right.
I just want to say that I'm so happy to hear the word dose response in here. Just
Anita, 1.5 hours. We are on 90 minutes. There are many stalwarts. There are many stalwarts. I cannot name all of them, but thanks a lot. Sangram Raut is there. There are many people whom I may or may not know, but together I suppose we are now around 50 people. If we take this as our personal responsibility to propagate this initiative, invite people. Today's was with my little understanding, I could understand it was a huge talk. There was a lot of knowledge sharing. So we can come together on this platform for this very purpose. Anita, over to you.
Yeah, so I will fold it up. What I see is that it's going to be a never-ending discussion. Please do join our next seminar so we can continue this discussion. And I see that with this kind of think tank, we can come up with something that might be betterment. So first of all, thank you so much, Sachin. So that is that part. And Neelam, very nice of you to join in quickly and covering the admin talks part of it. Also Udayan and Bhushan, both of you contributed on the spur of the moment. So thank you so much, and thank you everybody for attending. Again, I would suggest, Amit, would you like to talk about the mentorship program just a bit? Because as we came to that, we realized that many of the students will entitle. Amit, over to you.
Yeah.
After Amit, I would need a second. After Amit, I would need a minute. Okay.
Yeah. Namaskar. Yeah. All interesting talks, and EMG ek opening salami hoti on our Garje Marathi timeline, as we call it, because it across continents, across borders. So, as Anita mentioned, on the mentor-mentee program, our key activities in that are to provide guidance to this mentee, especially people who want to or in the postgraduate field who want a mentorship. आता जो जर्मनीचा आपला हाय वाघ त्यांनी जो प्रश्न विचारला का how he will be Ajay Wagh, how he will need a kind of mentorship in the AI field, and so on and so forth. Like we are finalizing our mentor-mentee program. We want established mentors like you to be a part of the program, so we can guide and facilitate the mentees in the right way. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So thank you everybody.
Thank you so much. Just a minute. Me ek सांगतो की आता आपल्याकडे
last word.
Can I say the closing remark as well as I want to say certain things? See, आपल्याकडे अनेक लोक आहेत आता. दिनेश पराटे आहेत किंवा बृहत अभ्यंकर आहेत किंवा संग्राम वैद्य. मला जी नावं माहिती आहेत ती मी घेतोय नावं. They are all are stalwarts. कोणाला एखादा टॉपिक डिस्कस करायचा असेल, एखादा टेक टॉक सारखा टॉक द्यायचा असेल किंवा ब्रेन स्टॉर्मिंग peer to peer इंटरॅक्शन साठी असेल तर प्लीज फील फ्री टू कॉन्टॅक्ट अस. आपण ते ऑर्गनाईज करू आणि त्यातनंच आपलं नॉलेज शेअरिंग होईल असं मला वाटतंय. मेंटरिंग प्रोग्राम आहे, इनोव्हेशन अकॅडमी आहे आणि असे वेबिनार सिरीज आपली चालूच राहील. Anita, that's all I wanted to say.
I think we'll just thank everybody and please stay connected. Anand, Apla, can we share our email that can be?
Okay. I will just post it.
And can we also, Sachin, can you share your presentation?
Yeah. See, the other thing is that video recording will be definitely available. आणि ह्यांच्याकडनं ज्या PPTs आहेत, प्रेझेंटेशन आहेत प्रत्येकाच्या, त्या मी डेफिनेटली शेअर करणार आहे आपल्या वेबसाईट वरती, as well as जे अटेंड करतील त्यांना ईमेलनी पण जातील.
ऑडियन्स सर्वे फॉर्म भरून फीडबॅक द्यायला विसरू नका. दॅट वुड बी मोस्ट.
सर्वे फॉर्म चॅट मध्ये आहे आणि आम्ही परत तो पाठवू. प्लीज सर्वे फॉर्म भरा, सो वी विल नो एक्झॅक्टली व्हॉट, अँड दीज काइंड ऑफ सेमिनार्स विल ऑल्सो टेल अस what is needed rather than we giving you something. We need to understand what is needed for this forum, because every forum may have a different need. So
पुढल्या वेबिनारला डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर युनिव्हर्सिटीचे व्हाईस चान्सलर येणार आहेत. ही हिमसेल्फ इज एम.Pharm PhD in pharmaceuticals, so he will be there as one of the attendees. Abhi Golab's seminar.
Entrepreneur par excellence. He has 4 companies to his name, and the previous company that he sold for $100 million. So I think that's a huge name. So please do attend that seminar to learn more on the entrepreneur side, how we can ask him that. Thank you so much, everybody. So we'll close it for today. Have a great weekend and see you next Saturday.
Okay. Bye everybody. Bye everybody. Bye. Thank you.